and staying in touch with friends in Washington and elsewhere, really since it began. The Donald Trump had called for a rally in Washington among his supporters at the moment that the Congress was in joint session, House and Senate, to do the final protocol ceremonial counting of electoral votes. This is generally a routine, not particularly newsworthy event. It barely merits any commentary in the media under normal circumstances, but it's been particularly fraught this year because of all these claims from the Trump administration that the election was stolen, that there was fraud, corruption, so forth, none of which has been proved and all of which has been found meritless by courts. I don't want to call them demonstrators or protesters at this point. This was a mob. They moved from a location near the White House to about a kilometer and a half walking distance to the Capitol building on off of Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, and a significant number of them broke through a very modest police cordon and stormed the building, climbed up over the walls, came up through the steps, broke down doors, began to ransack offices, steal things, tear signs off the walls, destroy stuff on desks, generally behaved in the way that if it had been any other group of people, there would have been a much more significant police presence and response. That's the crucial thing. This was allowed to run on for hours before there were enough reinforcements from the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police and National Guard units from the city and neighboring states to bring this under control and get the people out of the building so that the electoral vote count could then re-begin, which it finally did and then concluded early in the morning of the next day. And it was not a surprise. Joe Biden was confirmed as president-elect and Kamala Harris was confirmed as vice president-elect. But the echoes and repercussions of all this have become the story now, which means that with just less than 2 weeks to go in the Trump administration's time in office, senior staff in the White House, cabinet members are beginning to suddenly discover their spines and their courage and announcing that whatever happened on Wednesday was too much for them to bear, and so they quit. The cynics among us might have said, gee, it would have been nice if they'd said something 2 or 3 years ago, but they didn't, but now they have.
Yeah, so all of this is taking place while the country transitions power between, from current president, outgoing President Donald Trump, over to President-elect Joe Biden. So what does this tell us about the current political atmosphere in the United States?
Well, let me add one other thing to the mix, and it's one that foreign observers pay perhaps too little attention to. While all this was going on Tuesday in the state of Georgia, there were 2 runoff elections for the 2 Senate seats from Georgia. The Senate is the upper house of the Congress, and because 2 incumbent Republican senators were unable to get reelected, and they were defeated by, on the one hand, Reverend Raphael Warnock, who was pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, which is historically one of the great churches in the South and among the African American community. It was Martin Luther King Jr. and Senior's church. He beat one of them, and a young man named John Ossoff, 33-year-old investigative journalist, reporter, filmmaker, formerly an intern with the late Congressman John Lewis's office. The other,
So it's quite a busy situation in the country at the moment. But as usual, social media was quite a buzz in the aftermath of the events on Wednesday, and many describe it as an attempted coup. But analysts are divided on whether that's an accurate characterization. Your thoughts on this?
well, let me just finish my other thing first, and then I'll get right to your question. The effect of the two Democratic wins in Georgia means that the Senate is now split 50-50. And as the vice president is the president of the Senate, the Democrats now will control the Senate as well as the House of Representatives and the presidency, which is a vastly different circumstance than it was 4 years ago. With response to your other question, was it a coup? Was it not a coup? Coups usually are about changing a government, right? Replacing somebody that a crowd does not wish, and replacing it with somebody else, either the military or a civilian figure or whatever. But in this case, this was the president effectively soliciting a mob to hold back the process of change, hold back from there being an incoming president, hold back from allowing Joe Biden and his vice presidential pick to take office in 2 weeks' time. So it in a funny kind of way, it was you can describe it as a coup, but it was a coup against itself in a strange kind of way.
Yeah, so I think the next few days are really going to be interesting, watching how this unfolds, because this is something to do with one of the main countries in the world, and it's going to be interesting to watch this because we're seeing now President Donald Trump, sort of resisting this the shift of power, and the inauguration comes up in about 12 days. So I think everyone's going to be watching this and the events that are unfolding. But thank you so much for your time. I'm sure this is going to take a lot more time. It's going to need a lot more time to unpack, but that's where we're going to have to leave it for today. Thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. You give a shout anytime.
Right. That was Brooks Spector, who is the associate editor at the Daily Maverick, and he's also a retired American diplomat. That's what we're going to be leaving it for this morning. We're going to take a quick ad break, and when we get back, we're going to be playing a clip of a dua by Maulana Aku. Please do stay tuned.
Secure your very own copy of the Africa Muslims Agency 2020